International Immersion. We're here joined with a couple of special guests. Your hosts here, Herman. And
Sean.
Rafi.
Sia.
We're here trying to talk about culture shock and some of the interesting things that happened to us when we came to a foreign country. So yeah, this is your first episode. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, man?
Sure. Hello, everybody, and I'm glad to be here. My full first name is Siavash, which my friend always my friends recall it by Sea of Ash or Sea full of Ash. Sometimes I call it Sia, the first part. Sometimes I call it Vash, the last part. So I have been here in the US about 6 years. I came here for study at graduate school, and then I finished school and started working, and now we are here.
Yeah. So you've been sorry. How long were you been?
6 years. So I came here in 2013. At South, I started civil engineering at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, SIUE. So I got my PhD over there in civil engineering, and then in 2017 I graduated, and then I moved from Edwardsville, Illinois to St. Louis, Missouri. So not a very far relocation.
Not too far, but you moved from kind of...
But I got some culture shocks.
So yeah, we'll be talking about different countries, and we started out with China. Sean talking about a little bit about the culture there. We talked a little bit about Japan, and now we're moving into Iran. Can you tell us a little bit more about your country?
Sure. So Iran is a country with about 80 million population, and it's located in Middle East and in the continent of Asia. We might talk about that difference between Middle East and Asia later. And I was born in the west of Iran, so Iran has couple of different, I might call it sub-nationality, or better word maybe for that. That they have Persians, Kurds, Arabs, and also Turks, and different people with different languages. And Turkey, there are Turks, but we also have Turks in Iran too, or we also have Arabs, but there are also Persian and Kurds, etc. So my dad is Kurd, and I was born in west of Iran, which is more Kurdish people reside there, and my mom is Persian, so from the capital, Tehran, and so I'm a mixture of kind of being a Persian and Kurd, and so that was also good, knowing two languages. My Kurdish is not very good, though.
But hey, you have two languages, and that's a plus.
Yeah, and also English. Yeah.
So trilingual, even better.
It looks like Iran has a lot of cultures, not just one type of people, and that's good. We get to know a little bit more about how one region develops, how the type of people are there, and what they do.
In different regions of Iran?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the interesting thing, I guess, about Iran is its geography. So Iran has a mountainous area in west of the country, and desert in center, and more forest and more tropical probably area, and more moisture in north, and that affects a lot of the culture of people in different areas. So for example, my hometown, which is a Kurdish city in west of Iran, it's in a mountainous area, and it's somehow very isolated from other parts of the area because it's very hard to transport from location to another location because it's a mountainous area. So now it has much better transportation, but maybe 100 years ago it wasn't that much easy to transport to go to another city. So their culture remained more like untouched, and their language remained more, unique, like Kurdish language. So, and then you'll see, very varieties of cultures because of that reason, because distances of the city are very long, and then because of different geography, so you see a very like diverse culture, cuisine, music, language from every area.
No, that's really cool because having studied history in my undergrad, I studied Iranian history and geography, and very interesting kind of going from like back to the first Persian Empire up into the modern day, just
That's
the amount
cool.
of the empires, the different, geopolitical changes.
Too many empires.
Too many. But, very specifically, I studied a lot about the Parthian and the Sasanian empires, and, the interaction with both the Roman Empire and Byzantine Empire in the west, and then Hephalites, Kittites, and other groups in the east. And it's just very interesting, and the system of government and the satrap system they developed was very interesting in how they governed the provinces and how they actually organized and administered things was very, very effective. So, and then from that, you got to know a lot of different ethnic groups that came in and out, settled. So it's just a very culturally and ethnically diverse place. And it's, having studied it, it'd be really cool to actually go there and actually see it in person. But, it's one thing I found when you study something, from afar, you can learn a lot about it. But until you actually go there, that's when it's like, oh, wow, okay. It helps, okay, I know all these places, but until you actually see them, you smell it, you touch it, it's just not the same.
Yeah, so regarding all those empires, from my viewpoint, I hate all those empires because back home in a school, we had to memorize all the names and the years they initiated and the years they ended, the reason why they ended, and they were about probably 15 or 20 of them. And, in our history, final exam, we had to memorize all those years. So that was ridiculous,
Just a few thousand years, if not more.
So, a question I have, is something like history that you go to school in Iran and you learn about the world, what's some, and then you come to the U.S. and you see the books about your country, and it's, is it similar how it's written, or the story is different, in your opinion?
The books that are written here about Iran?
Yeah.
So I haven't that much read those books, here, but obviously because it should be much more, probably summarized or short. But I think, the facts are facts, starts and ends of probably empires, etc. They are facts, but the thing is maybe the viewpoint of people might be completely different, and even maybe in contradiction with what really is there. And I think there shouldn't be any blame of that because there are too many countries in the world and nobody have to know about all of them, so my own some people, even Iranians, they say, oh, so we asked somebody here and they didn't know Iran is in Middle East, they thought Iran is probably Africa or Asia, so sometimes it's reasonable because even do you know that, for instance, one country like New Guinea, where it is located, so even I have to maybe sometimes Google to find where that country is, so but I think probably a kind of general understanding about the situation would help, and that would result from reading more, getting more information, not just here, for everywhere, even people in Iran have to also learn more about what they are going outside.
No, I think that's very important. The more you familiarize yourself with the outside world, the better off you'll be. And also, I found this from meeting many students, while I was studying in China, from not just Chinese, but all the other international students there. having some background knowledge about their countries really opened a lot of doors in terms of what I could talk to them about, and also like, oh wow, you know more about my country, great, let's talk more. And it helped me really.
It breaks the ice.
It's a great icebreaker, and you can develop some acquaintances, friendships, and everything. And,
exactly.
And I dated an Iranian girl for almost 6 months when I was in China, so we had a lot of discussions about history and everything. And she was like, "Oh my God, you know this! This is great."
I dated a Ukrainian girl. I told her about like Yulia Tymoshenko, their past president, and their relations with Russia and Crimea and all of those things, and she got surprised. So that's a good thing for dating, actually. Good tips with the internationals.
It may not happen or help you much on the romance side, but when it comes
at the
just
start,
but it can definitely help you with just, oh wow, it makes them maybe appreciate you more. Okay, this person knows a little more about where I'm from, so it's not so distant, and it's easier to kind of get to know each other with less red tape or less hurdles to get through.
And I've learned from experience, if you know the language of the person you're interacting, it's like opens the door to their country, their values, and it's easier access than, I know we all speak English and when we come to the US, and it's the language of trade, but at the same time, knowing someone's culture and background helps you develop bigger bonds, and you're able to trade the experiences. And if I were to go to Iran, for instance, I would like the same treatment as, you were here in the States,
Exactly. Treat others as you wish to be treated. And, I think everyone wants just to be treated like a normal person, not judged, oh, you're from here, or you believe this, or you do that. I think at the end of the day, we're all people. Let's just treat each other the same.
I've always wanted to know about the Persian writing, or now they say it's Farsi, right? That's the official.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Arabic, but it's not completely Arabic. Can you maybe clarify that for a little bit for us?
So there have been like a couple of different alphabets in Iran, and then maybe about like 1400 years ago, before there were like 3 different invasions to Iran historically. The first one was a Roman invasion. The second one was like Arab invasions, that after that Iranian converted or was converted to Islam. And then the third one was Mongolian conversion. And then there have been a lot of, changes in culture and history after all of these historical events. So during Arab invasion, the Arabic language basically got more dominant in Iran, and then we changed our alphabets of writing. Before that, we had more like Iranian alphabet, which is very cool. If you have seen like Indian alphabets, how they write in Hindu, it's very close to that language or that alphabet. Because the Indians and Iranians had very shared cultural elements.
Yeah, because a lot of the Iranian empires, they share the border with the Indian.
Yeah,
India.
And sometimes they had
direct
contact, exactly. So, after Arab invasions, then the alphabet changed to Arabic alphabet, but we kept the language. So we kept Persian language, but it got a very lot of Arabic words even in Persian language. We have in English, we have different Latin words here. So it got very influenced by Arabic, but still the Persian remained, but we used that language, Arabic language. Even that was happened also in Turkey before Ataturk, which after Ottoman War with World War
after the Ottoman Empire fell apart in the 1918-20s.
Exactly.
Turkish nationalism, Ataturk rising, Father Turk as he became known, and he really kind of revitalized the country in a new way.
Yeah, and then he changed the alphabet of Arabic alphabet to Latin alphabet. Now they speak in Turkish but writes in Latin. but we are still speaking Persian, but write in Arabic. And for instance, another country which is Turkmenistan, they also speak Persian because they were historically part of Iran, but then they got by Soviet Union, so they were under Soviet Union
During the Cold
power
War.
for about like 100 years. So they kept Persian, they talk Persian, but they write in Russian alphabet now. So,
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
can relate. I went to Armenia because I'm 50% Armenian, descendant of Michaelian. So, basically, I went to Yerevan, and they were under the influence of the Soviet Union, and you could still see the signage and
exactly.
in the old Soviet Russian. So the older people spoke Russian and Armenian. Now the younger generations, when I was talking to them, they spoke English, they spoke French, Armenian, and they were trying to learn a third language. So it's kind of interesting going to that part of the world, how it's been influenced by I know Iran and Armenia have a good relationship. They Esfahan, isn't that a city?
Yes,
a lot of Armenians.
Armen lives there, yeah.
And,
A lot of Armenians live there.
The craftsmanship, and the one thing I wanted to know about Iran is like the tech, how is like engineering looked at there compared to the Western engineering here?
That's a good question. Asking an engineer, to compare these two. So most of these like recent engineering, I guess it got affected by, the recent development of engineering, which were mostly Western, knowledge or science and technology. So it came to Iran. So it's pretty same, Fortunately, I didn't have any cultural shock engineering-wise
Oh, that's
when I
good. That's
came to
good.
the
Nope.
US, because everything was same, and even and mathematics is the same language all around the world. So
They say math is the universal language.
universal language. Yeah, it's even not existing on the Earth. It also exists, other planets. there's same language over there too. So that was same, but specifically, if I want to talk, so civil engineering is relatively a little bit older technology than electrical or computer science. So I'm a civil engineer, so it has been in Iran for maybe 100 years. So there are like more, maybe it's more affected by the society of there, so there are like some more elements probably that are just probably Iranian.
It's had more time to to kind of develop in its own way.
Exactly. So for instance, if you study, because the language is Persian, correct? So if you study computer science, all the technical terms are English. Okay. But if you study civil engineering, technical terms are either French, because French was more dominant maybe during World War I or before that. And also there are a lot of Persian words that have been invented or used to use those technical terms. Yeah. So one of my friend, he worked also in Turkey, and he said, okay, we have like in Iran, we have different, very specific words for different parts of, a specific weld or steel or beam. All of them, they have different words. And he said, like, in Turkey, it's not that way. He also worked in Turkey, and he said, like, they call steel to all of those things. So it was more like generalization. And that's maybe, I don't know, maybe kind of historical reason for that. But yeah. So let's come out of engineering. I think it's a boring engineering.
So how about I've always wanted to try more Iranian culinary. The tray, the foods. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe?
Yeah, for sure. Because my Iranian girlfriend, she made some Iranian dishes, and they were quite good. And some of them were very different. Like, oh wow, I've never seen this, but I was very curious, and it was actually quite delicious. So I'm like, I do miss some of that food.
Any specific dish we should try?
So one of the main dishes is kebab, and it's always a point of dispute between Iranians, Turks, Arabs, who owns kebab, you know.
So everyone claims
everybody claims that, yeah. So yeah, and then there are like small different styles for grilling actually kebab in different, you know, Middle Eastern countries probably. So kebab is very you know, famous and favorable, and then there are like a couple of stews also that are very famous and common, and so it's, you know, it's very there are like a lot of varieties of food, and also like different regions have like different foods too. Maybe several times I don't know a specific dish on one specific region, you know. But yeah, so you tried, what kind of foods you have tried? Iranian foods?
It's been several years, but there was one dish. It was like kind of a green paste, and then they mix it and you add it
and
to
beans,
like, yes,
and probably meats.
Yep, yeah, it was very good.
It's called qorme sabzi.
That's it.
Qorme sabzi.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's kind of probably one of the most favorable foods in Iran. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, up until then I'd never even seen anything like it, but as soon as I tried it, I'm like, oh, I approve. I like it.
You know, I always thought like saffron, right? That's
Yes.
very popular and common in Iran, but it's very difficult to get in the United States. But when you do get it, it's like just use, you know, you don't use a lot, right? You just use a little bit.
It's the most expensive spice in the world.
Really? Why is that?
I guess if you want to weight, 1 like pound of saffron is more expensive than 1 pound of gold.
Wow, that says something right there.
No, literally, if you just calculate
like pound for pound, it is worth
Yeah.
more than gold.
You know, I've heard of, you know, in Spain they do a version of saffron there, but the one you want is the one from Iran.
Yeah,
because
the reason is that so it got from kind of like organic pieces of a specific flower, and then they plant several hectares, you call hectare, like lands, squared yard or of like that flower for one, you know, even for one city, and all saffron that they got from that would be like maybe quarter kilogram or pound, because it's just a very small piece of that flower that they take and then they dry it and they powder it, you know. So
it takes a lot of flour just to produce a small amount to be added.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in what kind of dishes do you put saffron on?
So literally in everything in Persian cuisine, they put saffron, but you don't need to be very wealthy to buy it, because, as you said, you just pour a very little amount of that. It's mostly poured in like rice, so it got like saffron rice, and it gets kind of yellowish color, and then, you know, also the foods in Iran, there are a lot of foods that you serve with rice, like stews or kebabs, and of course you have also other types of foods that you would eat with probably bread or without rice. But actually it's funny because my mom always sometimes used to cook foods, special foods that they didn't have rice, and then I used to tell her that these are not foods. These are not foods.
I guess I'm not. How did she take
this
that?
Is not food. If a food meal doesn't have rice, then that's not food.
So, and how did she respond when you told her that?
She told me, you have to eat, you know, you have to take it, you know.
Like, well, I'm cooking it, so you gotta eat it.
Yeah, you have to, yeah, I'm cooking it, you have to eat.
You know, coming from Iranian culinary arts and eating that for your, you know, since you were Iran, and when you came out to the U.S. and started eating the food here, what were your impressions? What were you eating?
So the good thing about, I think, here is that it's like probably very diverse restaurants here. You know, you can easily get foods from every nationalities. You know, so it's good. You know, I got more exposed to Mexican foods, Indian foods, like also like burgers, you know, and also so everything, you know, all different types of foods. So, but I think maybe I'm kind of liberal person, but food wise I'm very conservative.
Yeah.
So I might not like, you know, some specific foods or I don't take that much risk to try new foods.
I mean, I think it's, you know, everyone has kind of their own, you know, kind of limit or, you know, kind of guidelines they follow. But I'd say for me, I'll try almost anything as long as it's not dangerous, you know. And so I think part of traveling and going to a place is just, okay, I may not eat these things at home, but I'm here. I'm gonna do what the locals are gonna do. So I don't let anything kind of hold me back as long as it's not dangerous or this food may be toxic or, you know, can cause a big problem.
You know, I want to talk a little bit about bread. You know, when I get out of the U.S., I just think the bread is better. You know, the quality.
Yeah,
and you know, I bet the bread from Iran is really good. You know, it's just something that you know, it's hard to experience unless you go visit. You know, and have a chance to, you know, maybe the tomatoes are fresher and they're more from an organic source rather than a mass-produced source. You know. So, you know, that's a cool thing about food. You know, it could be prepared differently, it could look a little bit different, but it depends where you go. And you know, that's the cool thing about traveling. You get to experience different spices.
One thing that my girlfriend introduced me to were dates. I never tried dates before.
Oh.
And she brought some dates from Iran, and I fell in love with them. Like, these things are awesome.
Dates are also very popular here. You can buy every grocery store.
Yeah, it's just my family. We never prepare. You know, my family we have a lot of Italian ancestry, so a lot of noodles and that. But, you know, just a lot of these foods that, you know, we have them here, but just weren't exposed to them. So by actually going abroad, I got just more exposure to it, and I'm really thankful for that.
Like when you go, even I go to maybe Walmart and you pass several foods and you even haven't looked at that for years, and then you got noticed after, you know, somebody talks about that. You are like Italian heritage,
Mm-hmm.
so and you talked about noodles and spaghetti. Actually, yesterday I was checking we have a special food, like it's called tahdig, which is a crispy bread at the bottom of the pot when you pour like rice on that. And then I found that we have so that was what I was looking for. We have a Persianized spaghetti. So,
Persianized spaghetti.
Yeah,
okay.
like Persian style spaghetti, and then it's like we have like that. We put bread at the bottom of the pot, and then we put spaghetti and, you know, ground beef and, you know, tomato paste, etc. And then it's gonna be cooked, and then the bottom part of that gets crispy, and then and sometimes you don't put bread, so the bottom gets like crispy spaghetti. So it was funny that you can check the instruction and cook one time Persian style spaghetti.
Yeah, just get in your kitchen, get a bunch of recipes, and see what you can do.
Yeah.
And don't blow the kitchen up.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to make a podcast regarding
Yeah,
cooking,
you know,
or...
like having foods from around the world, I think brings people together.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Whenever people get together for whatever reason, what's one of the common things? Food.
I always love watching. Who was the guy who was CNN anchor and he had like different food documentaries?
Oh, Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain, yeah. I love his actually document. He once came to Iran actually, and he had.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and then he had like tasted different foods, and I saw one time he also went to Montreal, Quebec, and that was also very interesting.
Yeah, and it's also cool to see like all these things, and because recently I watched a thing about like trade in the ancient world, and they've been finding more evidence that there was actually a lot of Indo-Iranian trade between like I'd say more Indo-Iranian kingdoms, like during the time of the Roman Empire, where they actually would get stuff from the Mediterranean and a lot of the foods and spices, and that's how a lot of these things got introduced to each other, and how that's built up from today. But a lot of this is just now being rediscovered. Like, oh wow, they did get to trade from here to here, and the magnitude of trade is really kind of surprising to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny, when I went to Armenia, I was looking for avocados because and you can't find them in that part of the world. It seems like it's very expensive to ship it out there.
No, it is more common.
It's more common, but you're paying the price. So if you wanted a saffron in the United States, you're paying a high price because it's, it's imported. So knowing where you go and, appreciate, okay, I got to eat some different types of foods to interact with the people, And I want to know a little bit about the coffee, with the culture in Iran. Is it very big there, or where tea is more prevalent?
Yeah, so coffee probably is not as common as tea in Iran. So tea is much more popular, and there are like a lot of culture around that, and probably stories, and that's also, I'm just talking about black tea. So everything rather than black tea probably is not recognized as tea, like green tea, or it's not, people don't used to drink, something rather than black tea.
So you could say black tea is the staple.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. And and then, but so more recently, so coffee also got more popular. But there are like some, because you must hear about Turkish coffee, which is very famous. So we got, because Turkey is our neighbor, so we got a lot of influence from Turkey too.
Yeah, I remember the first time I tried Arabian coffee. It was very good, but oh my, I was awake for quite a while. I remember I drink coffee. I've had no big deal. I had 2 cups and I couldn't sleep almost all night. I'm like, what did I drink?
Do you still have insomnia?
No. Luckily, I don't suffer from insomnia. But I had these. I thought, okay, it's only 3-4 in the afternoon. I can drink coffee late in the day. It won't bother me. I have 2, I'd say moderate-sized cups of this Arabian coffee, and I couldn't fall asleep like 4 in the morning. I'm like, what the heck is this stuff? It was great, and it wasn't like you weren't jittery. You just, I can't sleep. I can't sleep.
When I had the Turkish coffee, I like to have the fortune read at the end.
Fortune reading.
Yeah, the grounds. It's the parts of the world they'll read you, and they'll tell you a little thing about your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Things that they might not do in the States, but they might do in other parts, and I find it pretty interesting. So Siavash, do you have like some interest in like music and writing? Anything else other with your engineering career? Other passions that you're trying to grow?
Yeah. So I play 2 or 3 Persian instruments, but I'm not very good on that. So maybe kind of like intermediate level or beginner level. But the good thing about that is, very unique and related to one specific area, and then it gives a good, sense. Probably when you're out of Iran, you get homesick, then you start like playing it as a kind of maybe refreshing. And then, but I'm most interested in writing. So, so I have been like writing and blogging for 15 years probably.
That's great. Yeah. I think just having a blog or just writing, it's a great way to express yourself, and also you can look back later and say, oh, I did this at this age or this point in my life.
Exactly.
I remember the first time I met you, you showed me a copy of your book you just finished publishing. It was short stories, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was so my my personal weblog, I post there for almost 14 years. So it's a 14-year-old blog.
Impressive, very impressive.
Yeah. And then I mostly posted all the materials on my blog and then collected them to publish that book. And I got some comments from my readers that they said, "Oh, okay, so we read all of those for free on your blog. Why we have to buy your book now? You have to write something new."
Is there a link where we could post for our viewers so they could see your posts?
But they are in Persian.
They're in Persian? Well, if you translate them to English, you might get.
And they can go to Google Translate, and Google will translate.
There you have it.
Very easy, and it was very easy. It's actually it's so funny because I also post my stories and writings in Facebook, and so sometimes I think. So I have like American friends in my Facebook, and also like Persian friends, also international friends. So Facebook automatically translates a foreign language to English if you reside in America. And so it's nice. And actually the quality of the translation has been improved substantially. You can, maybe 10 years ago, if you put something in Google Translator, the thing that you got was just
maybe a rough version of what really was
some
said.
Some curses,
I could relate by translating Spanish to English. When someone uses Google Translate, it doesn't always it gets you the words, but doesn't get you the context. So
yeah.
I would recommend, working with someone from the country that's been knows.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, no way machine can substitute people, but I mean the quality got a little bit increased. So, but maybe so there's something that's probably kind of, you can say, cultural shock that I got. So my passion was writing, and also is writing now. So I was always, dreaming on being a professional writer and live by writing. I found out it's impossible in Iran, and then I came to the US, and then I found also it's somehow impossible here, because when you publish your book, you don't sell that much, So you should be very probably professional writer to be able to sell your book and get a good income that you can. It's gonna be much harder than doing engineering and get a job and get income rather than being a writer. So
yeah, I mean, people do it, but they may have spent 10, 15, 20 years building up their career to a point where they can actually get by on that alone, because most people have to have a primary job, and they do that as their hobby or as their second
it's
job.
always tough to make it as a kind of day job, So and then the other thing is about the writing. So so for instance, if you are a photographer or a painter, and you live in Iran and then you immigrate to the US, because the language of photography is light and aperture, and the language of painting is colors, so it's a common language in all different countries. So you don't get that much discouragement when you come here, and you can start again doing photography and everybody likes it. But when you are a writer and you write in Persian, then when you come here, and if you write in Persian, so nobody understands it, so
maybe a few here and there.
A few probably. And then that's gonna be a kind of discouragement, because then your language that you used to write, you should either start writing in English, or you should use a translator to do that. So it's always tough for somebody who writes and who immigrates. It's very tough for them to make them compatible with a new country, because they used to write in their mother language, and it's very, very tough to get used to a second language to write as good and as easy that you write with your mother language, you know. And then I saw several Iranian writers that have immigrated to Europe and the US, and then they got even depressed because they couldn't publish in Iran, and then they couldn't publish outside Iran, and then they got kind of forgotten, you know, and then it was tough for them. Few of them got, you know, used to with the new language, encountered it, but it take a lot of effort, you know, maybe years. Yeah.
So I think that's about it. So it is tradition that at the end of every podcast we sign off by saying goodbye in our native tongue. So we'll be signing off. Do you want to give a shout out to the link of a book so that our readers, our listeners can check you out?
Maybe my Instagram.
What's your handle?
You mean ID? Instagram ID? Yeah, so I say it now or you put it the link?
We'll put it on the bottom.
Oh,
of the
okay.
link as well.
So yeah, because I mostly write I put my writings on Instagram now. It's Siavash, Siavasho. And so, goodbye in Persian.
Yeah, so we'll start it off. Rafael, you want to start in Spanish?
Adios.
Goodbye, or 再见 in Chinese.
Khoda Hafiz in Persian.
And goodbye and adios. And I guess I can do sayonara or matane.
I can also say goodbye in Kurdish.
Go for it.
That's very similar, but Khwa Hafiz.
Very cool.
Please send us comments or questions that you would like to listen to in the future at internationalimmersionpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know how you like this episode or something that you would like to hear in the future.
Yeah, and if there's anything you've heard in this podcast that you want to learn more about, also add some comments and we can expand on anything that we've already talked about and, keep going from there. So it's been a pleasure, and, feel free to let us know if you have any comments, suggestions, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Siavash.
You're welcome. My pleasure.